Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to our webinar today, co-branded with Sunwoda and Odyssey. We're just going to wait a few minutes just to wait for everyone to join our webinar, and we'll start. Thank you so much. All right, welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm going to pass on the mic to Maxime Eon, our VP Revenue at Odyssey, and that's going to kick us off, and then people can join as we go. Thank you all for joining today.
Thank you, Lucille. Can you confirm if Martin's online?
Yes, he's connecting right now.
Okay, great. Good. Thanks, Lucille. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are joining us from. As Lucille was saying, my name is Maxime. I go by Max, and I'm the Global VP of Revenue at Odyssey. I'll be joined in a minute by Martin Blades from Sunwoda, who's the Business Development Manager for Africa of Sunwoda. Today, we'll really chat about supply chain credit, which is a credit facility offered by Odyssey in the context of Sunwoda, being an equipment manufacturer that you all know. The webinar will be broken down in two sections. First, we'll chat about Odyssey as a business, where we're coming from, what it is that we do exactly, and more specifically, our supply chain credit offering. And in the second part of this webinar, Sunwoda will be introducing its product line and telling you more about their activity. So without further ado, and in the interest of time, I suggest we get going. Good. So one way to introduce Odyssey is to really understand why we do what we do. I think Odyssey is today the largest GRE-focused fintech platform, and our mission is truly to drastically accelerate capital deployment into the GRE sector, and we do that by combining technology with very innovative financing mechanism that are tailored to the industry. So we work with financiers, whether they are DFI or commercial banks. We work with equipment manufacturer like Sunwoda, and we work with solar companies. The reason why we work with these three stakeholders is because if you think of the value chain of the DRI sector, these are the three main stakeholders. And Odyssey really enabled the transaction by working collaboratively with all these stakeholders. To give you some quick background, Odyssey has been really operating since 2017. We've been working with large DFI since our incubation, And some of you may be familiar with us because you may have been tendering for some of the tender-led or RBF program that are run on Odyssey's platform. One of the most famous one being the DARE program in Nigeria, which is currently running. And that's been our business legacy. And since we launched, we've been identifying more pain point in the sector, and the more pain point we identify, the more product we take to market to facilitate the deployment of these renewable energy projects. So as mentioned, we work with DFIs, we work with commercial banks, we work with equipment manufacturer like Sunwoda. With equipment manufacturer, because of our bulk procurement capacity, we are able to negotiate what we call most favored nation warranties or agreements that contractually grants us best prices and best terms, meaning that when we are procuring on behalf of EPC partners or developers like yourself, we are able to get most likely better pricing than what you'd be able to achieve on your own because of the scale of our operations. And we'll chat further about this in a minute. And lastly, we work with solar companies. By solar company, really, I think we can capture the entirety of this very generic terminology. So we would be speaking to mini grid developers, CNI developer, SHS providers, EPCs developers, asset owner and operators, essentially anyone and everyone with developing project, building projects, or just own projects, and is in the business of yielding revenue from the sale of electricity. So as mentioned just now, we're really here to support you in scaling your organization. And in today's webinar, we'll be discussing a very specific product that is available to you in Africa, which is called supply chain credit. We are currently present all over the globe. We're a truly global company. We refer to Africa often as our home turf because this is where everything started. But we also have operations in India and Latin America, specifically Brazil and Mexico, where we launched recently. And we are expanding in the rest of the world. Wherever there is growth or the sector is experiencing exponential growth, very often it's experiencing pain point and working capital constraints simultaneously. And this is where we essentially plug our products and services to support the growth of the sector. A few words about Africa. Currently, we are supporting the financing of projects, the width and the breadth of Africa overall. Historically, you may be aware that we had footprints in Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. We are now financing projects anywhere in Africa, anywhere in Sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, we have projects currently undergoing in Sierra Leone, Mozambique, Kenya, Morocco, Egypt, and the list goes on. So regardless of where you are located and where you are developing and building projects, there is a very high likelihood that we're able to support you for these projects. Here are a few numbers to give you a better understanding, and I guess that will enable you to appreciate better the scale of our operations. We have 3,000 collaborators globally. So by 3,000 collaborators, we mean 3,000 solar companies who are using Odyssey services in its entirety or just a part of it. So these companies might be tendering on one of the RBF programs that we are running across the globe. They might be procuring through Odyssey. They may be using our planning tools available online. So we've been growing this database of collaborators on an ongoing basis, and these numbers is growing daily. We are deploying $2.8 billion of capital into the sector. So these $2.8 billion are not necessarily our equity, but we work, as I mentioned earlier, with large institutional funders who are entrusting Odyssey to deploy capital on their behalf. So it's not 2.8 billion of Odyssey's equity, it's 2.8 billion of capital overall that we are deploying in the sector. To date, we have facilitated the deployment of 2.3 million solar systems. 2.3 million solar system that you could think of mini grid connection, you could think SHS, you could think CNI. That's generally the impact we've had in the industry so far. We are very much mission driven, and these are very important numbers for us. What we like to see is more projects being built faster, and generally to see developers like yourself building and scaling healthy businesses. And lastly, just in line with what I mentioned earlier on, and the DARE program that I use as an example, we are managing 53 financing facilities that are set up in a very similar way as theirs, which are different funding facilities with different investment mandates. So I think one way to speak about supply chain credit is to speak about why it was born in the first place. If you think about the activity of a developer or a solar energy project, generally speaking, or a DRE project, broadly speaking, 60 to 80% of your cost come from the procurement of equipment, and is therefore the single largest capex items. So we come from the principle that if you can truly own your supply chain, procure at the right price, under the right terms, and procure the right product, you are laying the foundation to build a scalable business. And speaking about procurement, it's also the main source of working capital constraints for companies when they are developing projects. We see too many developers being constrained by the size of their balance sheet. And often these balance sheet dictates the size of the project you can build and develop, or the number of projects you can take on simultaneously, because you don't have endless equity to finance these projects. So we decided to launch supply chain credit roughly about 2 years ago. There's been some multiple iteration of it since then. Having listened to the market and experienced the market firsthand. And today, it's really a credit facility that is dedicated to support your procurement endeavors. The way it works is that we would essentially procure the equipment on your behalf by placing a PO with a supplier on your behalf. If Odyssey plays the PO, you are able to benefit as a developer or as a buyer from our best terms and best pricing we receive. We would then ship the product in country, enable you to take physical ownership of these products, build your projects, and you only pay the facility back from the proceeds of the contract sales. So in comparison to a more traditional credit facility from a traditional lender or a bank, our facility is it's not cash. It means that we are procuring the goods on your behalf and selling it back to you with extended terms. But B, we are anchoring the repayment facility to your own cash flows. So there are no fixed drawdown terms and schedules like you may have with the traditional lenders. So now, why does it make sense to procure through us? I see this on the slide is written cheapest. What it means is that we are leveraging our scale of operation, and whatever terms we are receiving ourselves, they are being transferring onto you. We are not marking up the equipment we're buying. All we're doing is charging you for the credit facility that you'd be using from us. Fastest, I mean, generally, there is that concept of time in our industry is well known by everybody. We are all operating against the clock, and very often by the time you are appointed for a project, the clock starts ticking and everything needs to fall into place very rapidly. We totally understand that. This is why we make this credit facility available to you within 5 working days. So as soon as you submit your document, within 5 working days later, we can disburse our facility. But we are also able to ensure the fast delivery of the product we are procuring on your behalf. I'll speak further about it later during this webinar, but we have a fully fledged procurement department with very well-seasoned procurement managers who are essentially acting as an extension of your business by taking care of procurement every step of the way on your behalf. Easiest because everything is managed from our platform. When you place a PO through Odyssey, we are able to give you an update at any given time on our platform of where your product is and when you should be expecting the delivery of this product. So visibility and transparency is very important to us. And lastly, but importantly, we have a very strict diligencing program and onboarding program for all the OEM with whom we work. So when you procure through a DC, you are ensured to procure from the right OEM at the right quality, ensuring that ESG compliance has been cross-checked and that these OEM are in good financial standing, which is very often, let's face it, overlooked by too many developers because of time and capacity constraints. So what do you need to do to start using our credit facility? I guess that's the That's the question you're probably asking yourself right now. You need to be appointed for a project. We wouldn't be procuring for you unless we know that there is a buyer on the other end. So if you are doing mini grids on the RBF program, we will need to see a grant assignment letter. If you are building CNI projects, we will need to see a signed EPC contract with a buyer on the other end. So we ask you to only engage us once these projects are RTB, and you essentially just need to kickstart procurement. So very important step, we only deploy capital on the back of secured long-term financing for these projects. So step number one, you are appointed for your project. Step number two, your engineering pack is completed. As you know, your engineering pack is dictating your BOQ, and as soon as your BOQ is final, you can share it with us, and we'll use this BOQ to engage our network of OEM, including Sunwoda, to seek quotations for you. Once we've engaged our network, we'll get back to you with a number of quotations, providing you absolute transparency on the market prices at any given time. So not only you are able to negotiate best market prices, we negotiate best market prices on your behalf, you are also able to benchmark the market and move forward in your procurement decision, knowing that you're making the best financial decision by procuring from the best OEM at the best prices available. Step number 4 is establishing what we call an escrow mechanism. Because this credit facility is completely off balance sheet to you, so in other words, it's non-interfering with your existing debt facilities you may have in place, we need to ensure that we will be able to get paid independently of you, the buyer, and escrow incoming payment from your customer. So that's something that we do in a number of ways. There are too many complexities and too many nuances to address them into this webinar, but generally we need to. The rule of thumb is that you need to either pay us before you collect the goods from us, so upon delivery of the good, or should you want to pay us later on past the handover of the equipment, an escrow mechanism must be implemented. And if you have any question, we'll share. We can address them at the end of this presentation, but we will also share an email address where we can chat offline after the webinar. Once the quotation is accepted, generally you would pay us a 15% deposit for the total value of the good. So this 15% deposit is due towards the payment of the OEM. So we pay the OEM 100% upfront and providing you credit for 85% of that PO value to the OEM. We procure the good on your behalf. We essentially deliver the goods to you. Step number 6 would be we collect payment on delivery of the equipment or anchor to the project receivables, as I mentioned earlier on. And lastly, once the final payment is done, the transaction is closed, and you can start recycling this credit facility. By the time we provide you with a credit facility, we expect you to recycle. We generally don't look at this relationship with our customers as a one-off transactions. We allocate capital to your business, and we want you to use this capital to build more projects. So as the first transaction is completed, 9 times out of 10, our customer will just reuse the same credit facility and recycle it for the next transactions, and thereby just growing the business and building more projects faster. That's it for us. That's it for Odyssey. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. And if you do have any questions, put them in the chat. I can answer that directly. And if no question, I'm happy to hand over to Martin, who's with us today. So let's see if there are any questions. Yes, Lucille.
Yeah, so I can see on the Q&A section, there's a question from Alexander. Are you open to channel partnership in other countries you are not currently present in?
Yes, I mean, the short answer to this is yes. We would have to really unpack what is meant by channel partnership. But Alexandra, I'd suggest we connect offline and discuss this in details. So yes, absolutely.
So at the moment, no more questions for now, but yeah.
No, if there are no more questions, then I am really happy to pass the mic to Martin from Sunwoda. Over to you, Martin.
Team, thank you very much, and good morning or good afternoon now. Might be still morning for West Africa, but it is afternoon here in South Africa. And a big thank you to Odyssey for allowing us this time and, giving us this opportunity to present our Oasis 60 high voltage cabinet. I'm going to be running you through some slides. I'm going to be going over a bit of a background on and an introduction on who we are as Sunwoda. And we'll be going into what we do in Africa. We'll be speaking about our battery, and we'll also be speaking about why our battery is good for microgridding. And then obviously we want to make the session as interactive as possible, but unfortunately we are limited for time. So there is the Q&A option, and then also very important that you are able to connect with me offline if anything is unclear. When it comes to microgridding, there's always going to be questions that aren't always able to be answered on the spot and right away. So and that's what makes this kind of interaction interesting, is that there's so many questions to ask and so much information to divulge. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to share my who we are as Sunwoda Energy. And today I'm going to be focusing specifically on commercial and industrial. And when I say commercial and industrial, I'm going to specify small scale, right? So we ranging from 100 kilowatt hours of storage. Well, for the sake of this product that we're going to be focusing on today, we start with 60 kilowatt hours of storage, and then we can expand all the way up to 360 kilowatt hours of storage with our Oasis 60. Obviously, our products also cater for the lower voltages, the smaller sizes. I know that there's a lot of projects in Africa that are bespoke in the sense that some of them have to be quite specialized and you have to play around with different sizes. So like I said just now, if there's anything specialized you want to speak about, we're very open to exploring those opportunities. I'm just going to go through a quick agenda. We'll go through a quick background of the company and who we are and why we are in the space, and basically just run through the solution, what our roadmap looks like in terms of the evolution of our technology. And then I'm going to show you just a couple examples of some cases that we've had specifically in Southern Africa. So 27 years of developing battery cells, and that's so important for everyone to know, is that we actually manufacture the cell, and we've been doing it for 27 years, which is quite significant. It all started off, as you can see on my screen, with 3C batteries, so batteries for cell phones, for electronic equipment, laptops, PCs. And then after that, we started going into electric vehicle batteries and then into energy technology. So it's been a whole journey. And then, just in terms of what we've done from our statistics, number one, when it comes to 3C battery shipments, that's something that's really important for us in terms of our background. And also in terms of our EV partnerships, global EV batteries that we've made over the last 20 years or so. So it is exciting to see what we are producing, and it's also very exciting to see the changes in this technology. When it comes to lithium battery development and areas that we are focusing on, these are the 6 major sectors. Energy technology is what we're going to be focusing on today. But just for interest's sake, 3C, like I've just mentioned, electric vehicles, smart hardware, automation and intelligent manufacturing, and then very specialized laboratory equipment, as you can see on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Just another statistic in terms of our background that I think it's important for all of you to know is that when it comes to Bloomberg and how we are rated, a lot of people, a lot of investors always look at Bloomberg, and we have been rated as a tier 1 manufacturer. So you know that shows that the quality in our material and the quality in our manufacturing is very important to us. In 2013, that was a very important year for Sunwoda. And the reason I say it was an important year for Sunwoda is because that's when we actually started to get into energy storage, the very type of energy storage that we are mostly speaking about today, in our residential applications, our commercial applications, as well as our utility applications. 2013 is when Sunwoda Energy Storage Division actually came onto the map, and then it started to evolve over time, and more production bases across the globe started to pop up. So when it comes to what I've just mentioned, energy storage, these are the divisions that we focus on. Today, I'm going to be focusing on C&I energy, and mostly our high voltage batteries. These are some of our production bases in China that we've got. These are the key production bases that are listed on this map, but we have at least 11 production bases in China, and we have another 4 across the globe as well, being in Hungary, we've got in Vietnam, and we've also got New Delhi in India. And we've just recently opened up a production facility in North Africa, in Morocco. When it comes to products, this is exactly what we've got. And although it does say residential and commercial portfolio, I'm going to be focusing on commercial. And I'm particularly going to be focusing on the Oasis 60, which is a high voltage cabinet, which is that unit on the right-hand side of the screen. And I'm going to be speaking specifically about why these units are, and why this particular model is suited for the African environment, and sort of just general landscape. So when it comes to commercial batteries, this is where we are situated at the moment. You know, with our liquid cooled, that is a new concept that we will be developing and bringing forward. It is ready for shipment. So, you know, if anybody is interested in pricing on what our liquid cooled technology looks like, you're very welcome to get in touch with me, and I can assist you on that. But more importantly, we're going to be looking at our air-cooled, our Oasis 60 high voltage, which is a 60 kilowatt hour battery, and it is paired with a 50 kilowatt hybrid PCS. So a hybrid inverter can be used as the PCS charger on this particular cabinet, and perfectly suited for outdoor application. It is internally protected, an IP55 rating, which means that we can have it outdoors. And it is also very dust proof. We will illustrate further on in terms of what that actually looks like from a component point of view. But what this product specifically speaks to is safety. That is the most important aspect, and when it comes to the design philosophy and the designing of this product is we want to make it as safe as possible. And we also want to make it as easy as possible to install. So everything is pre-wired, prefabricated. So you drop this unit on site, and you are able to then immediately install your hybrid charger or your PCS, and you're able to commission these systems very, very quickly. So from a deployment point of view, you do have a massive advantage. you'll see we have two description of products over here. We've got Oasis 60 and then we've got Oasis Rack. So our Oasis Rack, when it comes to battery design and the way batteries are packed, it's basically the same as the Oasis 60, but I'm just using this indoors. So for any indoor installation where I'm installing in a warehouse, or if I'm installing in the basement of a parking lot, this is where our Oasis Rack is well suited. In an African context, I know that there's a lot of you and a lot of companies that are installing outdoors. They're having to install in remote rural areas, and that's why the Oasis 60 is a popular unit. Just to break down the Oasis Flex, we've got a considerable amount to look at over here when it comes to flexibility. We can have random sizes. So if we want to do an 80 kilowatt hour bank, there's no problem. Whereas with a cabinet-based solution, it's fitted just for 60 kilowatt hours. So that's just something important to know when it comes to designing. And I think that's why we call it the Oasis Flex, because you have flexibility when you're designing and working. When I speak about lithium-ion cells, we take a lot of care in the production of our cells, and we also take careful consideration into where we are putting our cells. So we've got our 100 amp hour cells, we've got our 280 amp hour cells, and we've got a 320 amp hour cell, all being used and considered for different applications. And in this particular Oasis Flex, we have got a 100 amp hour lithium ion cell. And what's important to know about 1CP is, and I do know that this is a topic that is brought up very regularly, is your charging and your discharging at 1C. Our design of cell allows us to discharge for 1 hour at 1C. And it's very important to know that, because it has been discovered in this industry that there are a lot of manufacturers that have 1C, where it says you can discharge at 1C, but it doesn't allow you to discharge for the full hour at 1C. You can only discharge for, let's say, 20 minutes for a limited amount of time. So from an energy output point of view, that does limit you, depending on application. But with our cells, we've got a longer discharge time during that hour. So very, very important for you to know about our batteries and that particular statement, 1CP. Warranty-wise, we offer a 5-year standard warranty, which can be extended up to 10 years. But what's very important in our warranty offering, and very important to understand, is that we are offering an energy throughput. So we're offering a throughput warranty. So for example, over here, we've got 2.54 megawatt hours per kilowatt hour. Your Oasis 60, like I said, if you have a look on the right-hand side, we'll supply this unit with a bracket. There'll be an existing bracket that we supply, and that bracket you can use to mount your 50 kilowatt inverter charger. We are compatible with a range of inverter technology providers, such as Solace, Dea, SMA, Solenteg. The list does go on. We have just recently tested with ATES and been compatible. So I'm also very, very happy to share a comprehensive list on who we are compatible with regards to the Oasis 60. in regards to compatibility, what's very important to know is that we are open to working with other technologies. We are just a battery manufacturer, but we do a lot of research and development on how our battery pairs with other technologies, with other inverter technologies. So if you're using a technology that is not on our compatibility list, you're very welcome to approach us, and we can have a look at how we could test for compatibility and work together. Also using 100 amp hour cell on this product. And then when it comes to the features and what makes this product special is all of those safety aspects, the HVAC and thermal insulation. We have HVAC, meaning air conditioning, built on the outside. We have this for regulation of temperature, for longevity on the battery. Very, very important. And then for safety, we rely heavily on our smoke and temperature detection, as well as an aerosol fire suppression as well. Also very important to know that when it comes to monitoring at cell level, you can do that on this particular battery. You will be prompted via an alarm on your monitoring platform that there is a potential problem, that there is overheat on a certain pack, or that there is a pack that's not performing the way it should be performing, and that something should be done about it. So not just safety, but also optimization, understanding that you can get the right amount of yield from your energy banks or from your battery banks, and knowing that there is a problem over there does save you a lot. And if you can resolve that remotely, that's first prize. But obviously going out to site does cost money, especially in these rural areas. So it's very important to understand that advantage of being able to monitor these units remotely. Cell performance is extremely important for us because, like I've said, we're a cell manufacturer. And here we talk about our cells and their performance based on state of charge and also based on temperature. And this just shows those differences. If you want to go into more depth on our cell performances and how our cells are compared, you're very welcome to contact me. We do have a pre-sales engineer who is based in China, and he is purely dedicated to assisting clients on proposals and showing clients our technology and really what makes us special. So just to give you a sneak preview, well, not really a sneak preview, but just in terms of what we're going to be launching in terms of bigger sizes and what is already being launched across Europe and across parts of China and Asia, is we will be doing a slightly bigger battery, a 215 kilowatt hour and a 344 kilowatt hour. And both of these batteries will be liquid cooled. And, you know, we're aiming to achieve high energy density. We're aiming to have this deployed in a range of different environments. And then also cell performance. You can see listed over here is a 280 amp hour cell. So we are improving the sizes of our cells, and we are improving the performance of our cells. And then also the fire suppression features on this product, very, very similar to that of the 60 kilowatt hour high voltage unit that I showed you just now. And look at the inside, you know, in terms of what liquid cooling technology really looks like. And as you can see, it's got everything on the inside. So we have our pipes where the water and glycol mix flows. And then right at the corner, we have a radiator that holds that liquid, that water and glycol mix. And then that liquid is deployed when the battery bank charges and discharges. That is obviously the important time for that cooling to take place. And then on the inside of the door over here, you can see all of the combustible gas detectors, the fire suppression controllers, the exhaust fan. That is all included on the inside of the door. It's got a fire hose. In the previous slide, I don't know if you noticed, there's a fire hose right at the bottom of the door, and you can connect a hose to that and basically flood your entire cabinet. It's not always the best way to do it, and it probably won't work most of the time, but it is something that is just important to know. Also offers a 5-year product warranty, and you can extend up to 10 years. And then also energy throughput is very important to know. And then certifications complies to your UN and your IEC as well, which is important, an important standard to adhere to. And then this gives you a visual representation of the 280 amp hour cell, and just their performances based on temperature. On the liquid cooling units, like I mentioned earlier, we've got a range of third-party technology that we are compatible with. And these are some of the brands over here. Some of them may look very familiar to you. Some of them you might not have heard of before. But when it comes to building projects, please do speak to us. We've got a team in China that is dedicated to helping out with proposals and solutions. And they're also very familiar with these brands and how these brands work. So the more familiar you are with how your PCS works, the easier it is to scale up your projects and to build your microgrid. When it comes to PCS, like I said, we've got PCSs that are compatible with our batteries, but we are embarking on building our own PCSs. So what we will do is we will rebrand a PCS from a reputable manufacturer. Mostly we are working with Sinexcel and a Chinese PCS OEM called Enjoy. And basically what we're doing is we are using their PCS in a cabinet format, as you can see on the screen over here. And we're building different sizes for different applications. So you can see there's 100 kilowatt or 200 kilowatt that you can do with all of your on-grid applications, and also a 300 and 400 kilowatt, slightly bigger for your on-grid applications as well. Data sheets. This is just an overview of our PCS data sheets, and I'm very, very happy to share data sheets on our Oasis 60 high voltage units, and I can share data sheets on the liquid cooling units as well, should you be interested. I'm sure a lot of you have been asking yourselves, okay, this is a product that I'm looking at. Where can I use this product? Where can it be used most effectively? And these are some of the applications that are most popular: load shifting and peak shaving. When you're hybridizing systems and wanting to add other technologies such as wind technology, and you want to create like an ecosystem of different renewable sources in one. This is an example. Backup mode as well, on grid and off grid. Particularly for microgridding. EV fast charging. We haven't really touched in this presentation on electric vehicles, but our batteries are used quite frequently for electric vehicles and the production of electric vehicles, and then frequency regulation as well, which is also very important. I know frequency regulation doesn't really apply to a lot of people that are installing completely off the grid, because you're having to build your own grid, so there's no frequency to be dealing with. But important to know that when you are doing your on-grid and you are working with the grid, our battery is suited for that. Summary of cases. As you can see, we've done we've done some projects all over the world, different sizes. You can see these sizes do differ quite dramatically. What's important to know, and that's why I mentioned earlier the Oasis and building your plant. You can do indoors and you can do outdoors. And when you're doing indoors, as you can see, that's done in a room in a warehouse in Zimbabwe for a factory, and they're able to stack them the way they want to stack them and be flexible and sort of have all of those different sizes. When you're going cabinet based, it obviously looks more different, and also a factory where we're able to parallel these units together, to create your own energy storage bank. And that brings me to the end of showcasing our high voltage products, and I look forward to hearing some of your questions and for some future collaborations. We're very open to what you have to put onto the table. If you've got a complicated system and you haven't managed with other providers, please get in contact with myself, and I'm very, very happy to assist with proposals and providing more insights on our product. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Max, and thank you, Martin. So we've got some questions coming through. For Odyssey, what sizes of project do you find or offer as a credit facility?
Thanks, Lucille. Very good question. So currently, the size of the credit envelope we are supporting are anywhere between $100,000 and $5 million. So it's very much project specific.
All right, thank you so much. We've got another question, this time for Martin. There has been much talk on localizing supply chains and corporate environmental and social responsibility initiatives. So are you in any way considering to establish local battery assembling and recycling in Southern Africa?
That's such a good question. Right now, look, North Africa, which is Morocco, where we've got a facility. In terms of going further south than that, I'm not 100% sure in terms of how we're going to be setting up production in Africa. Right now, a great deal of our production comes out of China, and we're starting to move off into Europe or certain parts of Eastern Europe, like I mentioned, Hungary. But it becomes quite an interesting topic of discussion. But for now, we're focusing on keeping our production bases in Europe, China, and a very small part of North Africa and India.
Thank you so much, Martin. I think we've got another question for you as well. Does the L215, L344 range comes with installed converters?
Installed converters. So when you say installed converters, do you mean does it come with an existing a PCS, or
I've just gave the permission to talk to the person that asked the question. You would like to explain exactly what you meant? I think it's integrated within the box. I think that's what was meant.
Oh, integrated within the box. No, it's not. So you would have your own, you will buy a separate, what I've mentioned as a PCS. So your power conversion system is what PCS stands for. And that is what that is what you would buy separately. You can, however, with our 215 and 344 kilowatt hour, you can buy a PCS that is assembled by Sunwoda and designed by Sunwoda. But it's sold almost as like a separate item.
Thank you so much. Is there any other question in the audience? Please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I wanted to thank you both for this great presentations. I've shared your email, Martin, with one of the attendees, and otherwise we will send an email after this webinar with all the information that you need to get in touch with Max or with Martin. Thank you all for joining us today, and I wish you all a beautiful day.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.